Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got your Week 14 start and sit video for the running back position. Of course, this is based off of full PPR and half PPR. So again, if it's a standard league, of course, hit us up in the comments down below, and we'll be able to help answer any of those questions you do have for your lineup. Remember, there are several teams on a bye this week, so make sure you are paying attention to that. If you do have questions about your lineups, of course, hit us in the comments. If you have questions about who you should pick up or maybe drop, again, we're here to help you guys out. Now, these are your starting running backs for Week 14 that should be in your lineup. Now, Jacobs and Mixon are still a concern with their injuries. So just make sure you're paying attention, whether it be through us or anybody else that you get your news for injuries. Just make sure you pay attention to that. Of course, you can follow us on our socials. We'll be able to answer those questions for you. We'll be updating any type of injuries that are going to happen, but those are the only two running backs I have a little bit of concern. Now, as far as my recommended start, I have D'Onta Foreman, who also is questionable, but he's going against the Seahawks. Seahawks allowed 28.1 points and over 110 rushing yards to running backs combined. They also just gave up 19 points to Cam Akers, which is a big deal because Cam Akers was not even considered to be the starting running back for the Rams, but he had a really great game. Foreman has done well since taking over the running back one spot since McCaffrey's been traded off. Hubbard's been injured. He's been back and forth. So Foreman has really been the success story for the Panthers. Foreman's success is definitely going to be relying on keeping Carolina in the Seahawks game. If they can do that, running the ball, making sure he's going to be rushing quite a bit, they may have a chance in this game, and he should be able to reach that 100 rushing yard mark. The only thing you have to be a little bit concerned with Foreman, he is not a pass catching back. So if Seattle gets up on Carolina, which is always possible, if they do get up, there's a good chance that Hubbard becomes a little more valuable than Foreman. And again, pay attention to the injury because if Foreman does miss, I actually like Chuba really, really well this week. I think he's going to be a phenomenal little sleeper if he ends up having to fill in for Foreman. Now, Cam Akers, like I just mentioned, at 19 points. I like him against the Raiders this week. He's another start I believe should have a really good game. Raiders are struggling against the running back position. They've allowed an average of 16 points to them the last 3 weeks in general. Prior to that, they were allowing an average of 30 points between weeks 8 and 10. So for 3 weeks there, they were averaging 30 points to the running back position, which is huge. Akers really had established himself in this last week as the running back for the Rams. Now, obviously, they're going to still sprinkle in Kyren Williams. Don't get me wrong. He's still going to be there. They want to see what the rookie can do. But right now, the experience, the explosiveness, the way he's able to read the line, Akers definitely has the edge and should be the running back for the Rams. That's who they were expecting anyways without the whole situation that happened early in the season with the trade request. But I like Cam Akers a lot. Another running back has Latavius Murray versus the Chiefs. I like Murray this week a lot. Now, this is going to be a game where he's going to have to play a little bit more in the pass catching aspect, and I think he can do that. He's not exactly a must start in like your running back 2 or 1 spot, but he's definitely a solid flex spot against the Chiefs. I'm expecting like a 12 to 15 point game for him, which is a good flex spot for you. And realistically, it's the passing game that's going to be as beneficial. The Chiefs are allowing 7 receptions to running backs completed per game, which is phenomenal. That's an automatic 7 points. Anywhere from 20 to 30 yards. Again, you start adding up, maybe another 50 rushing yards. Like that's where I think Murray's going to do most of his damage is I see a 50-yard game on the ground, 30 to 40 receiving yards, and 6 to 7 catches. And that's going to get him into that 15, 16-point range, which is going to be a phenomenal flex play. Again, low RB2, mid to range RB2 is where I expect Latavius Murray for you guys this week. And that's where I think he should be finishing up against the Chiefs. Now, the first running back I have as a good sit this week is going to be Rachaad White versus the 49ers. Now, you may have to start White. I get it. With the whole injuries and the bye weeks, Rachaad White might still be in your lineup in general, just because of what's going on. But the 49ers are one of the best teams at stopping the run. They hold running backs to 15.4 points combined and under 60 rushing yards. White had a good game against the Saints, but a lot of it has to do with that last touchdown right before the game ended that saved it for him. Had he not gotten that, he would have done okay, like 10 to 11 points. So again, and that was a pretty good Saints defense. 49ers are even better. Plus the fact that they have Leonard Fournette back, Uncle Lenny's still there. He's still a factor. He's not as big of a factor as he once was. I think they really do like White, and I think he's going to get most of the touches, but Again, he's another one I'm a little concerned with. Dameon Pierce is another running back I'm really concerned, especially against the Cowboys. Cowboys defense has been top notch in stopping running backs to 19.2 points and only 105 rushing yards. The last 3 games alone, they held running backs like Dalvin Cook to 7.2 points. Barkley, 15.2 points. Jonathan Taylor, 13.3 points. So it's not like the Cowboys have gone against really bad running backs. They've gone against some of the best running backs recently, and they still had a really good way of stopping them. Again, 15 points from Barkley is a good game for an RB2, not an RB1. So Dameon Pierce is up against a big one, and the Texans should be behind. I think this would be a game where Dallas can run it up. And unfortunately, Pierce is not the most effective pass catching back, but he'll get some receptions. Again, like I mentioned with White, you may be down to where you have to start Pierce. I try to look for some other options. Again, Latavius Murray, maybe you have him on your roster. I'd probably start him over Pierce. There's just maybe some other options you could possibly go with. Now, James Conner's the last running back I'm going to have as a good sit this week against the Patriots. Patriots do a great job at stopping the run, holding running backs to only 80 rushing yards and 16.8 points combined. Last 4 games, they've only allowed 8.9 points to running backs. 8.9, which is ridiculous. Conner's very effective when it comes to the Cardinals being up and, of course, being in the red zone. That's where most of his damage is done. He is a red zone threat every single time. But if Cardinals can't get down the field, or if they're not up necessarily and they're playing catch up, Conner's pretty much non-existent. He's not a great pass catching running back at all. And unfortunately, one thing that I will give credit to the New England Patriots, typically they will stop the run and try to get you to beat you by the pass. Kyler Murray is obviously going to be a quarterback that I do like this week. So I think I give him the edge more than I obviously would give James Conner. Now, running back for a good sleeper, I've got Jeff Wilson Jr. versus the Chargers. Chargers are the 4th worst team in the league against running backs. They allowed 27.2 points combined to running backs and 135 yards on the ground. Last 2 weeks alone, they allowed James Conner to have 23 points and Josh Jacobs 23 points. Wilson should be a big part of this game. I mentioned obviously Jeff Wilson as a sit last week because of this matchup against the 49ers, and he was that. He should have been sat in your lineup. He didn't perform really well. A lot of it has to do with the fact that obviously the 49ers knew what Jeff Wilson was like, his gameplay ability, and the fact that it's a really good defense. Chargers are not that. I think this is a great turnaround game for Jeff Wilson. I know a lot of people probably got burned last week if you didn't listen to my advice as far as sitting him. But this week I like him. I think he's a nice little flex, again, RB2 aspect in this matchup. There's not a lot of great studs this week because of all the buys. So a lot of these running backs that I mentioned here, you're going to be playing because you're kind of stuck playing. And that's understandable. Hopefully your league did not start your playoffs this week because this is the worst week to start playoffs. So hopefully you guys are next week, and that way you guys are prepared. Now, if you guys do have questions of your starting lineup and who you should be putting in, not just running back position, but any other positions, of course, hit us in the comments down below. A lot of you guys have been asking comments in our last video we just posted, and I appreciate all that, and you guys have been phenomenal. If you guys did enjoy the content and you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell is on. That way you guys are notified every time we drop a video just like this. And of course, if you really did enjoy the content, make sure you hit the like button, share the video with your friends and buddies, maybe not your enemy this week, but make sure you share that with your friends as well to make sure they are prepared among their leagues as well. Make sure you check out our quarterback start and sit. Pay attention to our wide receiver and tight end, and I'll check you guys out next time.